Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to talk the Thousandfold Thought, chapters 1 through chapter 4. So it's my first time reading this one, and I'm here today with Katerina and Daniel, as usual. We're back from the break and refreshed and ready to go. Katerina, do you want to give us an introduction?
Sure. Hi, I'm Katerina, and I'm reading The Thousandfold Thought for the second time. And I'm very curious about how I feel about the book this time because I know that I rushed through it the first time I read it because I was so desperate to know how it was going to end and what was going to happen to my favorite characters. So I'm curious to see how I feel about the book now that we're reading it more slowly and taking our time.
Hmm.
And
And Daniel?
I'm Daniel. I'm doing a reread of the Second Apocalypse. It's fun reading it with people who have read various amounts, and I want to know what you thought, Steve.
Gotta say, so I think the way that the Warrior Prophet ended, it ended on it was really intense and really like this. I don't want to say cliffhanger, but it kept you, for me anyway, it kept me really anxious to start because I wanted to know what was going to happen next. And the first four chapters that we read this week, kind of like deflating a balloon a little bit. I gotta be honest. It was a little bit. I think it almost felt like when a season, like a sitcom season, ends and the new one starts, and then there's like a recap of what happened last season, kind of like getting to know everyone again. I kind of felt like we were just kind of like repeating things. Maybe that was a intentional choice to kind of catch people up who were reading at the time, who may have forgotten things, or who may have, because it probably took a little bit of time between book two and three at the time that it was printed. But um, there were some things, but I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot in these first four chapters. What did you guys think?
I mean, I do agree with what you're saying. It especially like the first chapter, it did feel like a bit of a recap, and overall, I did feel like the four chapters we read were sort of re-establishing where we left off with the characters and the emotional state that they were in and the reasons why they were in the position that they are now. But I actually really enjoyed it. Like the parts about the series that I enjoy the most are always the ones with a lot of dialogue or a lot of like inner monologue where you're really getting into the psychology of the characters. And
Hmm.
I did feel like that was missing for a big chunk of the Warrior Prophet, and we finally got back to it here. So I thought it was actually very enjoyable for me. But I do understand your complaints.
And there was no real climactic moments, but I still kind of feel like a lot happened in these four chapters as far as positioning on the Benjuka board. We got Kellis gonna be a, what did they call him? A sorcerer without a school,
Yeah.
but also the warrior prophet. And then we got, let's see, now he's living back with Esnet, and they got their weird situation. Nair almost killed the wrong Moingus. The Ickery stuff. I just feel like a lot of new things kind of happened, and I feel like this book is so complicated. It's crazy how R. Scott Bakker, in like 4 pages, can explain the whole Darkness That Comes Before book. When he does the What Has Come Before, and he explains the whole like Warrior Prophet book in 7 pages. So if I ever thought about explaining that book, it would be 40 pages, maybe.
Katerina, I think you bring up an interesting point. I didn't think about it until you mentioned it, but I think this book is almost, because I think there's a difference between the first book and the second book in the delivery, and I think this one so far, I think, is right in between, because we do have some of the more of the, getting inside the heads of the characters a little bit more, and some of the plot points moving along. So it's almost felt like it was in the middle of the two, kind of the style. Felt like a kind of a mix, because the Warrior Prophet reads a lot faster than the Darkness does, I think. And this book, these first few chapters read faster, but like Daniel said, there are things that happened. But I think maybe it was just my anticipation going into it. Like I wanted answers because of what happened in the last few pages. So, but there were things, but yeah. But another thing, just really quickly, is that I've realized that reading Bakker and reading Erickson have ruined my enjoyment of some other books, or not honestly ruined, but they've dampened my enjoyment of other books, because it's hard to maintain that level of you know of storytelling when you go from something like Bakker, or even like Empires of Dust. You go from that to other books. There's a stark contrast there with prose.
It's like
Yeah,
watching a Lifetime movie instead of Game of Thrones.
It's like watching like a
They're
Lifetime
kind
movie,
of
and
all
then you
the
watch,
same.
you like watch The Godfather, and then you watch a Lifetime movie. It's you know, so it's just different. Not that the other books are bad. It's just a different experience.
yeah. I think having read this series made me realize there are only certain types of book I want to waste my time on. That they're yeah that I mean, sometimes I don't know. It kind of depends. Like sometimes you're in a mood for a light read or a fun read that doesn't require as much mental power. Um, but when it comes to the books, I really enjoy. I've been on a hunt for more books like this series or like Malazan, and it's hard. They're not as many.
Mhm. It's tough. So I was when I started reading the book, I had some tabs handy, because I always, we always tab, and I started running out of tabs pretty quick, because I was tabbing like the first page. There's just so many lines from these books that just make me smile even when it's terrible.
Did
Um,
you did you read, or what did you think of the first two epigraphs that introduced the entire book? If you had
the
a chance.
one from Cormac McCarthy, Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah. The all progressions from a higher to a lower order are marked by ruins and mystery and residue of nameless rage. So here are the dead fathers. Does it give you any indication or of where this book or the series is going, do you think?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about, because we had the couple of weeks off, and then I noticed some things in this book, and I think I tabbed them. Um, but there's some, of course, the holy war, but so there's some religious things mixed in here. If I don't know if I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I kind of got a lot of like heavy religious things from the book.
From all of the previous books or this book?
All of them so far. There are some references in this book, and I think I have the tabbed page, but about, well, of course, in the last book when they hang them upside down, Surway and Kellis, and then I forget where it's mentioned, but they'd mention um, their hands being nailed, their hands and feet be nailed, and the shapes. So it's kind of like a Christ um, parallel there.
Yeah, that was his hanging on the cross moment for
Right.
sure. They at one point even mentioned, I think, Sodom or Gomorrah in these chapters, where he said like one city had become so horrible and all the bad stuff was happening in it, that people just referred to it as like a sodomite place. There's definitely a lot of religion in this because it's just a reflection of Earth and human society, and religion's a big part of human society itself. And he'll play with all of that.
Yeah, I think you can definitely find a lot of references to Christianity in the Enrithi faith. Like even the name of the prophet
Yes.
Enrithi is like
Take that and
in
jumble it around in your head for a while and see what are they called in anagrams you come up with, words you can pull out of Enrithi
yeah,
see if
and
you
like
can get it right.
even in Christianity, Inri is an abbreviation for the title that of Jesus, the King of the Jews, from Latin. This is just like one tiny detail that I found.
All the way up to like the naming of the people, like the Islamic people are all like Fanins and Kaskamandaris. And they have like a whole, I don't know. It's just different. They ride camels. They have mastodons. They're like desert people. They worship a whole other god.
They worship the solitary God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely parallels, but then also I would maybe caution against thinking they're like they're just one to one. They're that like he lifted them one to one from our world. Like
Yeah.
for example, the in Rita religion it's not monotheistic. They actually they worship 100 gods, or at least like a plethora of gods. So he plays with it.
Yeah, they're all tropes and concepts for him to mess around with. He likes to play around with old fantasy tropes, like the chosen one that we have in this book, who's not like a normal chosen one.
And I'm sad to report that I was talking with someone recently about the story, about the books, and they had read all of them, and they mentioned something to me that is probably a spoiler. I'll tell both of you after. It wasn't a major thing, but it was enough to where it got me. I kind of I kind of have an idea where it might go, but we'll talk about it. I don't want to spoil anyone else who's reading along with us.
There's so much spoilers that would need to be said to really spoil this book that you have to listen to at least 20 minutes of someone talking in order to like get a good thorough spoiler of the end. You'll be able to
So,
walk away well in time.
just for this first trilogy or for the entire series?
The entire series. This first trilogy, it would still take a while to explain, but a lot less.
Yeah, I think it's more spoilable. But I mean, I don't know. It's always a shame when, especially with these books, like I can. Well, I mean, I never felt like I was able to predict what was going to happen, or maybe I was just it was just wishful thinking. Like the things I probably could have guessed were going to happen, I did not want to happen. Um, that I would. It's always a shame when someone spoils things for you,
But
even
I want to
unintentionally.
revisit something. Last time we talked, Steve made a prediction that the Holy War would not get to Shime.
Shimei.
Do you still think that prediction's true after
I'm
the
gonna
first four
I'm gonna hold I'm
chapters?
gonna hold to it. I'm not gonna back down now. We'll see.
All right, just check. I just wanted to check.
I can't. It's only been 4 chapters. I can't bail out now. I have to stick with it.
I mean, they've barely left the city, so
Yeah. And the spoiler wasn't. It was very vague, and I think it was a small thing to mention, but I think it may be a big. In the long run, maybe like a not major, but I think significant. But we'll see. We'll see.
Well, if you want me to go beat him up, I will.
No.
Just tell me where they're at.
All right, well, we'll talk.
No
We'll talk.
spoilers.
Yeah, we'll talk.
A couple. Did you guys find anything interesting in the what has come before parts?
You know, I remember reading something that I was surprised me that I didn't remember if it was just explicitly said or if it was something that I forgot and now I can't remember what it is. But I think this is I think he does add in details um, from the books that maybe people we missed or were vague before, or am I off base?
He definitely clarifies some things. Maybe not entirely truthfully, though.
Hmm.
I think usually what these summaries help me with is understanding the motivation of the characters better.
Hmm.
Because sometimes it's done, he doesn't comment on it in the actual book itself, where you just supposed to understand it from context. But in the summaries, he's more explicit. And like, for example, in I think with Neyor, um, he does a little bit more into the detail about why he decided to help Callus at the very end, after he got not crucified, after he got hung up on the circumference. Um,
Circumvide. We'll call it that. A
I
word.
was gonna say circumcised, but that didn't fit.
Yeah, you gotta say fide.
Yeah.
It felt wrong.
Are we reading the same book? I don't know. Speaking of that, there's something we'll talk about it in the fourth chapter, but something I thought was pretty funny, in a twisted, not funny kind of way. We'll get there. We'll get to that chapter.
There were a couple of funny tidbits. I think especially Eleazar's is has some comedic moment, like very like dark comedy, but I still did find them funny.
Was he questioning how Acamian would protect Callus? Like he would protect him with his girth or with his
I
flabby body kind of thing?
think that was Neyor, but I do remember that one. That was I did laugh out loud when I read that. It was like a very serious scene, and then he's just
My favorite one was with Nair when he's like getting yelled at by Esnet, and he says, "But its name," and then what does he say? It's like he heard someone cry. Surely the voice was too womanish, too weak to be his own.
Yeah.
but it was him. He's just on his knees bowing to Esnet because she's screaming. It was good.
Esminet is making some moves. She's making some pretty big decisions, and she seems like she's it's almost, I kind of saw her in these first four chapters as almost like a student of Callus, because she talks about she's resisting the urge to, was it mislead or the resisting the urge to kind of take advantage of the situation when she was talking to Acamian, I think. But she's learning how to manipulate and how to kind of pull strings.
she's becoming a politician.
Hmm.
And it's a weird position for her, like as someone who spend most of their life being very poor and powerless, to suddenly find herself in a position where she's one of the most powerful people among the Inrithi in Coruscant. And she has this like one passage where she's thinking about this, about like what power is and how power is basically the fact that you just with mere words you can have someone killed or someone freed, or it was
I think I actually have that tabbed because I think this she understood was power, the translation of word into fact. She only need to speak the word. Uh, she need only speak, and the world would be rewritten. Before her voice could conjure only custom ragged breaths, and quicken seed before her cries could only forestall affliction and wheedle what small mercies would come. Now her voice had become that mercy, that affliction.
Yes, well, Baker can put it a lot more eloquently than I.
Oh, yeah, I can't even read it, so yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of amazing to think where she started, like where we met her in Sumna and where she is now. Even though it's still like she's still only holds power within like this very like relatively small group of people, as they've only really conquered like a couple of cities in the Western Three Seas. It's not like she's an empress or a queen with like a established kingdom, something like that.
That's true, but in some ways she kind of is more, or she might even think she's more, because she's like walking prophet's wife. That seems to be more significant than some king's concubine or something like that. But she's struggling right now to walk the line between who she once was and who she's expected to be now, I guess, because she has to be out there doling punishments to people and doing bad things to people who used to could have been her, kind of. I think she had a couple people flayed, didn't she?
In public, right?
So she's becoming queenly. But
And
it's been fun to watch since she came from where she came from to now be where she is. I think even Akamian has accepted all of his body slaves now too, because he's never had them before. And he's like, "Man, I've been a spy all my life. Why not? I won't wear these ugly rings though." But
yeah, it seems like it's a fairly easy thing to get used to, having slaves and not having to do any manual labor for yourself.
He doesn't have to walk on the march anymore.
he has a new horse called Noon, I think.
And I don't think I know they mentioned the mule, but I don't think they talked about his fate and just that he was gone. So
I think he got lost somewhere in Iothea when Akamian got attacked by the Scarlet Spires, if I remember well. But I don't know if they killed the mule. Like I don't know if it just ran away or if it got killed during the attack. I don't know if it ever gets clarified. I don't remember.
I don't think one original horse from that time has made it to where they are now. They've all been eaten or died. I think they're all riding like the Padre Jazz horses now.
Yep. But just coming back to Esminent, I think one thing that um, strikes to me it's the fact that we've kind of like it's a stark transition for her, but at the same time, from the very beginning, we've known that Esminet is someone who's always wanted more, who's always kind of thought that she could do more if she was just given this chance. And even in the first book, when she meets Hercellus, she gets very easily seduced by the luxury that he offers her, and the comfort that comes with his position. So it does not come to me as such a surprise that she has ended up where she is now. And there is this one line where that she tells Akamian, um, I think it's end of chapter 1 or maybe 2, when she comes to visit him to check up on him, and he's kind of making her feel guilty because she abandoned him, and she tells him something along the lines like, "You gave me a life, but Callus gave me the world." And I thought it was such a gut punch. But also, you can't really blame her. He objectively speaking, he has given her more than a Akamian ever did. He started to read. He's given her power. The best thing that a Akamian did for her, you could argue, was just to make him his camp wife. Which, you know, if you compare the two.
And I might be wrong here, but I kind of am getting the impression that Akamian is a little bit intimidated by her now. Because she's becoming this stronger person, and she has this power and influence that I don't think Akamian always. I think he's a little envious of, where she is now, like what she's become. But maybe I'm reading too much into it.
I could see that, but I think he's more just still in love with her and jealous of Kellis and mad at Kellis and still having to help Kellis. He's just going through an emotional roller coaster right now. And he talked about becoming more Seswatha-like because his dreams and the realities are less different now. He even said he's the de facto Grand Master of the school, even though he's not, but he's the one out really doing things. But their relationship is very strange. And I felt real bad for Akamian reading all this. Yeah. He's still reflecting on his Andamine Heights jokes. I'll give you the Andamine Heights.
Yeah, it almost feels like Akamian is experiencing some sort of a Stockholm syndrome with Kellis. I do find it quite astonishing that even after everything that he's gone through and the betrayal by Esmenet, that he chooses to stay and protect Callus and even to give him the gnosis. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to comprehend. I guess that he is really convinced that Callus is the chosen one, the prophet who's going to save them, but it's a little bit odd considering how educated, well-read Akamian is, that he would just put so much faith into one person, that person being Callus.
I feel like it mostly has to do with, up to this point, his whole life he's been chasing ghosts, and finally this person comes who can bring these ghosts to light. So his life is not worth what Seswatha's horrible dreams are to him. And I think the dreams are they're experienced fully. So when he dreams of being burned, that he's being burned. So he's in agony, and then he wakes up. He's like, man, I don't want to go back to bed ever. But now his reality's becoming just as bad. And even though Kellis betrayed him, it's still the only hope for all of humanity. So he's struggling with his self-jealousy or his belief that Kellis is the only hope for the entire world.
Yeah, the hope part I guess is what confuses me. because there is the Kelmonian prophecy, and it's clear that somehow Kellis is entangled with the consult, but in nowhere does it say that Kellis is the one who's going to save them, or that he has the means to.
But
So
he can kill skin spies, and you can see them. And I think at one point Acamian is talking, and it talks about how much that like undid from them. That's why they'll try to assassinate him, probably because they had so much of a benefit having skin spies in everywhere. Now that they're all pushed out, the consult may be reeling and kind of desperate. And all this is good to Acamian, because before this, the consult were just like smoke. Every day he woke up just a cloud of smoke he could never touch. Now this guy has helped him at least touch him. So that would give someone a little hope, I think. Especially, I think it said it's been 300 years since they've seen the consult or something like that. So now there's a little bit of hope. Even Natsera believes him, which is kind of surprising. Natsera, I think, hates Acamian a lot, but
I mean, Acamian thinks that Notera hates him, but he's notoriously not good at reading people.
it's true. He knows that he betrayed Enrao, so now at least Acamian hates Natsera for sure. Kind of his whole school he seems to be very mad at currently, but
Yeah, I mean, also considering the position they put him in, where he has to keep working with Kellis, who stole his wife, and also pretend like he was not kidnapped by the Scarlet Spires and tortured, and had his friend who had his friend blinded.
yeah, he wants him to hold court with the people who tried to steal everything from him. But at least he got, was it Eokus out of the deal? And then we had Zenimus try to shove some eyeballs back in his eyeballless head.
Yeah, that was really strange.
That was very disturbing.
So I was a little bit lost on that part. Did it work? Okay, I wasn't sure if it worked or not. I just knew that he was
like screaming, "Why won't you open? Blink!"
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he starts just thrashing around, all mad, and Acamian ran away.
Yeah, I like how Acamian closed the door and stayed inside the room, like he had left, and he just stood there and
What's
watched.
this guy gonna do?
Yeah, then he just like snuck out. And he starts yelling at the eyes.
I do find it fascinating watching how quickly Zynemus's personality completely disintegrated. Like, especially because he was introduced to us as someone who was like very strong. It's like who had a command over the situation, like a general. And then this experience just completely destroyed him. And the friendship they had with the Kamian as well. I mean, do you see them? I do see them recovering from this. Like, it does seem like he's on a downward spiral. Zynemus, I mean.
Yeah, I think he's I didn't really think of it that way until now that you mentioned it, but yeah, you're right. He is in a spiral. I mean, considering what he's been through, I can't say I blame him.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's just I think based on the first impressions, I would have expected him to be stronger person. But then I guess you can't really predict how someone's going to react to this kind of trauma.
Because they did break him, right, in the torture scenes. He did tell them what they wanted, if I remember right.
Yes, they
he
used
didn't have
some
much to say.
compulsion. Yeah, he didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see how a common starting to despise his friend. Like the connection between them, like you can see it just breaking, I think. Like he's becoming a nuisance for a commune, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah, Zenimus has fell far, but I might just speak to, I wouldn't even say Kamian strength, I would say just the strangeness of the mandate dreams, how this powerful soldier could be broken so easily to a sorcerer's school, and the Kamian could keep the secrets of the Gnosis from them no matter what they did. And he said, like, when it was happening, it wasn't him that was keeping it from him. It was Seswatha, his brother, like basically half him. Because when he sleeps, he is Seswatha only, or he doesn't get the boring parts. It talks about, like, what did it talk about? How no one ever sees Seswatha shit or something.
Yeah.
And now he's Seswatha, so
they're
maybe he
censored.
doesn't shit either.
Yeah, the dreams are censored, it turns out. They're not R-rated.
Yeah.
It's very PG. Well, not PG, I mean, considering the torture scene at the beginning. The first dream, it's... What's the name of the fortress?
I think
Decliage? Something that starts with a D.
that's when Natser is dreaming and Kamian's trying to wake him up from one of Seswatha's dreams.
Yes, right.
And it's all about, I think, Seswatha is dying to the consult, even though maybe they weren't called the consult then. It just said it was a group of shrank non-men and a crazy thing with wings and cancerous lumps all over it.
Did it have wings? I thought it had like 3 arms or something.
Oh, there was also something with 3 arms each place where 1 arm would be, and 3 legs each place where 1 leg would be. A bashrak.
Yeah, I think that was the bashrak.
The wing thing is Inkori.
I think I missed that. I missed that there was one present.
But they talked about how it's like uncommon for them all to be together. And it might be worth noting for the future. That was actually in What Has Come Before, where it talked about that. It also said that Kellis claimed to be an assassin sent to kill his father.
Yeah, that's true. That's thank you for reminding me. That was one thing where I was like, wait, is he not an assassin?
And it said for the first time Kellis weeps, which he's fake cried plenty of times. But when he was up on the circumfix, he must have actually really wept for the first time in his life.
Yeah, I think I missed that in the Warrior Prophet as well.
Yeah, I think I missed it too.
Oh, and then after it was like right at the beginning somewhere, they talked about the after effects of this war and how they finally started getting food, and pretty much 100 people just died of overeating, like relapsed from finally getting real food, overdosed on meat.
Food.
That's pretty crazy.
That's a really stupid way to die.
And then they caught maybe 10 skin spies out of the 38 that had been known after Kellis's little purge. So there's at least 28 skin spies somewhere still.
Well, it seems like most of them abandoned their positions when they realized that Callus started chasing after them.
Yep.
And speaking of skin spies,
One of them might have taken a new form, huh?
Yeah.
that, and then we met, and then another one was revealed.
And that's
Yeah.
when Air was chasing Survey through the fields, all the way up to the pile of dead bodies.
Yeah, then
And the bird or the winged creature.
yeah, it seems to have struck some sort of a deal with Nayor. Though I think it's unclear at this point if he accepted it or not.
Because technically, he's already on a mission from Proyas to go kill Confus for Kellus.
Which I'm very perturbed by.
It talked about how Kellus had made 2 assassination attempts on Confus already at this point, and they both failed. So, Kellus isn't perfect. Unless he wanted to fail.
Well, we know from New York that there is some value for, or there is a reason why Kellis has kept Confus alive, at least in Karascant. They have this sort of confrontation at the meeting of the Great Names, where we kind of learn that maybe Confus is not a god, but just a psychopath.
Oh, and Kellus shuts him down all the way.
Yeah, I love that scene.
That was great. That was my favorite part of the 4 chapters.
That's one of my favorite scenes in this book that I remember anyway. Is the
I
whole
think
like
something that only R. Scott Baker can really do, because you have to like really lay down an argument in those paragraphs from someone else's perspective and be convincing. It just seems like it would take a really talented philosopher or just argumentative person who can write really well to be able to do that.
and I mean it's to me it's like interesting because it seems true, but at the same time it serves a very specific purpose of removing Confus from the Benjuka plate.
Well, one of my favorite lines were during that interaction on my edition, page 53. Why do so many give when it is so easy to take?
And he's saying Confus is just a taker. He only takes.
You who are less than any man, say to yourself, I am a god.
And then he's like, and you have to deny that right now in front of all these people because they all know it's not true. And then you go home and tell yourself that you're God still. Just playing his self-deception, kind of.
Diagnosis.
When Kellus just as easily could have built him up like he did Savon, who's now just not going anywhere. He's over this whole deal. He's got a castle now. He doesn't want any part of anything.
I wasn't going to bring up Saban, but
He was there.
I couldn't help but laugh from that whole he just like refusing to leave.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I mean, what else would you expect from Saban? Like he wants to be a king of something. It doesn't matter that it's a twice sacked city with almost no inhabitants because everyone's either left because they don't want to be his subjects, or they died of hunger or genocide.
And what did he say? I delivered it to you, and I opened the gates, and it's like you and 1,000 other people, or whatever. He just trying to take credit for all of it, just because he had a small part, but he wants to believe that it was his doing. It was all him.
He already
Mm.
thought he deserved a city from the Battle of Mengeda or whatever when he almost died, but somehow made it through. He thought he was promised a city way back then. He's still been thinking about it to this day.
It's
And from
almost
the
like
sounds of it, I think the city sounds like it would be a cool city because it's kind of like tucked up in the mountains. Seemed like it's hard to invade and easy to defend from the way it's described. But you're right, it probably smells real bad right now. Kellis is wherever he was staying. They already got flowers there and they're already regrowing stuff. Except I think Acamian might have burned a lot of it down. Or Eokus. Someone burned a lot of it down.
Yeah, I think they burned the apple orchard, if I remember. There was like a row of apple trees where Callus met with the Kamian, if I remember well, and then oh that yeah right, and they had the skin spy they caught. They had him tied to one of the trees, and then a Kamian had this line about um how could how could someone tie something so ugly, like how could they put something so ugly in a place that is so beautiful? And then he's like, only someone who does not understand beauty at all could do that. And I was like, yes, Callus does not understand what beauty is.
And I think Tellus's answer was, "Oh, this tree's already dead. This is a dead tree right here." And then Akka, when he's talking to his school's like, "Oh, just lie to him and teach him just a teeny bit." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, that's not gonna work."
Yeah, and I think then the next scene, Callus is like, so what did they tell you? And Akami is like, oh, I'm supposed to lie to you about the gnosis.
he doesn't even try and hide it.
And I didn't realize how close he already had the Scarlet Spires to him. Not Sarah, or not Sarah. Lazarus is like fawning over Kellis at this point, so he could just easily learn their magic. I think that agnostic, the anagnostic texts, but he
Yeah,
wants the old magic. The old magic's way cooler. I
way more
imagine
powerful.
I imagine him like somewhere watching that battle, just trying to listen to what Akamian's saying, steal words.
Maybe. Could be. I mean, we know that Callus has very good hearing. But speaking of the Scarlet Spires, it seems like Eleazaris has completely lost it.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if a lot of that was like Ioka said, that he was like super drunk because he was selling out his friend and just trying to play it off. So he's just getting wasted, being like, "Oh yeah, go talk to Kellis," even though he knew that he was going to meet Acamian.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I think he's been freaking out since they left High Anon. Like he's been gradually realizing how big of a mistake he's made by joining the Holy War and what a danger he put his school into. Um, I guess the revelation of the console that of the skin spice is probably like a last nail into the coffin
Of his sanity.
of his sanity.
Mhm.
But it does make for some good comedy.
And then I think Iokas lives. He just doesn't have his eyes now.
No, because Zynemus took them.
But Lazarus tells him, "Oh, maybe that'll make you better at meaning, because magic's about meaning, not eyesight, not seeing it. You mean it."
What a comfort.
He has to be in a better position than Zenimus because he's at least one of the few, so maybe he will be able to see through Snake's eyes someday. If he tries. Zenimus has no hope. He's just real drunk and real sad and lashing out. I wouldn't want to be his friend either if I was a Camian. It would be a struggle. I would have to keep being his friend, but I would hate talking to him. Terrible. He's a downer now. He's just real down.
Debbie Downer.
It's warranted.
Yeah. Yeah. The other part that made me laugh was when Xerius visits the Empress and wants to it wants to, you know, couple, and the Empress has an erection. And well, first you kind of get the idea that something's wrong when Xerius he makes a comment like she was showing him an uncharacteristically showing him respect. So you kind of knew right away something's not right. And then when it wasn't a funny moment, but it was funny at the time. So
I did think it was funny. Did you anticipate in any way that she was a skin spy?
not until that line that I think it was like a page before that she was acting. She had showed him respect when she walked in the room. She said, "Forget how she the title she gave him, but it was I'm like this doesn't sound like because now by now I'm always wondering who's the skin spy because I'm always trying to figure out. But had I not been paying that much attention, I probably would have noticed. But
I think it's unclear when exactly she was replaced, because there are some indications even in darkness that she might be a skin spy. There are some comments if you go back and reread darkness for the third time. There are some references to her not like changing her behavior, and there are some moments where she seems to like almost sabotage Compass or try to sabotage Xerius's plan to make an alliance with the Phantom, and it's not like I'm not sure if that's just her being the Empress or if that's because what the skin spy who pretended that was they were the Empress, if that's the orders they got from the consult to sabotage that plan.
It never gets answered clearly, but it's somewhere in the pages for you to find. Probably, you're right.
Yeah, but I would wager that she definitely is a skin spy in the Warrior Prophet already. I would think so. Also, there's the fact that she was very good friends with Chaos, who we know was a skin spy. So that's like another hint that they somehow got to her.
And I think at the end of that chapter, and it said that the meat in his neck popped. What does that mean? Is he still alive? What do you think, Steve?
I don't know.
I've never felt the meat in my neck pop before when someone was choking me and scratching my face.
I mean, rest in peace.
So okay, I was a little bit confused with Saul and Hurtada. I'm probably butchering those two names. The two kids that are trying to see Methanet. Have we seen them before? Because I don't recall. They're new, right?
They're definitely new. That was kind of a confusing, weird little bit to me too.
It was a weird, really awkward transition there. I thought it's kind of strange.
Yeah, it was very unexpected. I don't know why he chose to have. I guess it's because we don't have a POV character in Sumna anymore, and he needed to somehow relay that information about Maintanet leaving Sumna. Um, that's why he chose those two POV characters. But it is very it's very unexpected, and I don't think we'd seen those two kids before.
I even noticed in that little part there was a lot more like detail on architecture than I think I've ever read in Baker before. It was like a whole page describing just one place, which Baker usually like kind of leaves that vague for people.
So what do you think is the purpose of Nathanet's journey? What is he up to? Why is he leaving the Thousand Temples?
I think Nathan is a confusing character because he's such an important character in the story, but we don't see a whole lot of him. I think
He's,
in the first. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say yes. He's very enigmatic.
Yeah. It's just kind of weird that he's such a major character we don't ever see much of him. And you both are smiling at me like, okay.
I
Well.
was just looking at Daniel's face. My expression was very neutral.
I was thinking about other things.
I bet, yeah. So I honestly have no idea what's going on with Nathanet. If he's fleeing, then something must be wrong, right? Or maybe not. But yeah, it's really strange. I'm
I
really
didn't get
lost on
that he was fleeing. I just got that he was going somewhere. The wind was finally headed the right direction for him to take off to somewhere.
to somewhere.
Yeah, just to somewhere. There was a really good little passage about kind of what Akamian's going through right now with his Callus and Essenet situation. It is, despite his nerves, Akamian appreciated the absence of speech. Never, it seemed to him, had he suffered such a throng of conflicting passions. Hatred for an impossible rival, for a fraud who had robbed him of his manhood, of his wife. Love for an old friend, for a student who at once his teacher, or who was at once his teacher, for a voice that had quickened his soul with countless insights, fear for the future, for the rapacious madness that was about to descend upon them all, jubilation for an enemy momentarily undone, bitterness, hope, and awe, all before all. So he's just going through every single emotion you can go through.
Yeah, it makes sense. He feels very conflicted. I wouldn't envy him that position. If it was me, I probably just would have left a long time ago.
I guess I thought about that too, but if you knew what he knew, where would you go? I guess there's really nowhere to go, right? I mean, if you believe what he believes, he's almost like he's stuck, like he's forced to stay there and to work with everyone.
For Swatha, even if not for himself. Because
I
the
mean,
mandate is
yeah.
named after the mandate that they're supposed to be there and they're supposed to be prepared for it. And then they realize that they are really not prepared after 2,000 years of preparation. They didn't get prepared at all.
Sounds right.
Oh, there was a part where the Kenyan was fighting Iokus, and it was like describing the way the magics were working, and it described Acadian's like wards as ghost stone, which I thought was really cool. So like Iokas was like tearing down his ghost stone with a black shadow mallet or maul, it said. So I imagine just like a igloo kind of, but way more see-through, built around Akamian out of his magic, just getting hammered at. And then I kind of imagine that with Iokas, but then whatever that last thing Akamian did, where all the blinding points just come into each other and just cut apart his boards, and didn't kill him though. What
Like
a nice guy.
like a dragon's head, right?
That was Iokas's magic. Iokas, their magic, they have to make something, like they have to make a dragon head so it can spit the fire. Where Akamian's magic is like the root, he can just make fire. He doesn't have to like have the glamour involved. And one is obviously better than the other. Or Akamian is just a badass. Maybe both.
Yeah, it didn't seem like Akamian broke a sweat when he was fighting Iokas.
He has a lot of rage in him from watching his best friend get his eyes plucked out, and now just always complaining to him. That's what happened. It was for sure Zenimus who was like, man, you gotta get me those eyeballs. And Akamian's like, fine. So he went and talked to Kellis. He's like, I need some eyeballs for my friend. You know that's how it went. That's for sure what happened.
Well, thank you for this reenactment. But I think, yeah, that was the gist of it.
And then I just imagine Zenimus shoving the eyeballs in and all the like loose strings just coming down his cheeks still, because he's just trying to plunge him in there. It was a pretty horrible scene for me to imagine.
Yeah, there was a quote in that chapter, I think, about vengeance. I don't know if I can. Well, this is not the chapter. Yeah, I'll read it out if I find it.
Also, my favorite quote. While you guys look for it, there's part where there's all these new people coming in because they heard the Holy War's been doing good. So now there's all these new people coming in on the ocean, braving the winter, it said, and they all show up. And the people of the Holy War are just like a whole new group of people. And they can't even look them in the eyes because their eyes are just too brutal because they've been through so much. And then it talked about how they're not the same people anymore. They spilled whatever blood they once shared with these men. It's like, oh yeah, we're blood, but all that blood's been just leaked out in the desert. You're not my brother anymore. It's just crazy to think about.
Yeah, I found the quote about vengeance, and it goes, "If soot stains your tunic dyed black, this is vengeance." It's pretty dark and ominous. But I guess it describes the it's very succinct description, quite accurate. It's not like Iokas. Is this Iokas? Is his name? Is it his name?
Yeah.
It's not like him losing his eyes leads to anything good for anyone. Like, no one wins from that. Zynemus is not getting his eyesight back. It doesn't seem like, I don't think it's going to do much for his mental state, and Iokas is probably going to want to take some revenge on Okami or Kellis. So it's like it's a lose-lose situation, or at least lose no win situation.
We're going to see how a powerful mage deals with no eyeballs compared to a powerful general that loses his eyeballs, I guess. I don't think he thinks he has a chance against the Camion at this point, because even at his best, he was easily shut down. He should be mad at a Lazarus, right?
Yeah.
He even realized that it was him that betrayed him before. He's like, I can't run. There's Corey Bowman everywhere. Thanks. And then he just fought instead.
I quite like Ayokas. He seems like a no nonsense kind of guy, like very rational to the point, no emotions involved.
I think that's the Chen or whatever that drug is. It just like deadens your emotions, and he's been addicted so long he's completely emotionless.
Emotionless and pigmentless.
That's true. He's probably pretty crazy looking.
But seems to be coping much better with the situation that the Scarlet Spires find themselves in than the Eleazaris is at the moment.
There was something. I don't know, this may be nothing, but there was something at the beginning of, I think it's chapter 1, when they have the skin spy, and they're asking him questions, and he says, the skin spy tells him, "Woe comes, Chigra. You have found us too late."
It
So,
could be nothing. It
could be nothing.
could be everything, though.
Yeah.
Well,
I
we
thought
we
it was
kind of know that the second apocalypse is probably coming, so he might be just referring to that.
That's what I kind of thought, but I don't know if it was something else, like if it was some other plan that was in motion that we don't know about yet. But
I thought it was interesting how Kellis talked about how he'd been torturing him to try to get what he could out of him, and he's like, I could get everything out of him. It would just take me like 8 months. I don't got 8 months. And he, what did he say? Something about how basically how it was built. It was too like.
I think he said it was conditioned.
Yeah, it was very conditioned, whatever it was, but he could still break it down in 8 months.
Interesting.
They just didn't have the time. But it's just interesting since he is one of the conditioned, and he's talking about how conditioned this skin spy is.
Does it mean that if you had enough time, you could break a Dunyan?
I don't know. Ask your philosophy teachers. Gotta tell them what a Dunyan is first. But I guess that's debatable. Or maybe it gets figured out eventually. Maybe it always stays debatable.
But I mean, it's an interesting comparison because I think we generally think about the skin spy as being like having no agency, like being sort of like slaves to the consult, whereas the Danyain are also conditioned but striving for like complete agency.
Slaves to the absolute, kind of.
Yeah. So it's a strange juxtaposition.
Anything else you guys want to mention that we haven't talked about yet?
There's a part where Nair was like just reflecting on how Kellis was infecting these people, and he says, What would they do? What would they do now that their hollowed scriptures could talk? And he's just like laughing about how Kellis is going to move this whichever way he wants through their old belief. Because it's like talked about now how I think when he was talking to Akamian, he's like, do you want to be damned or do you want to be free? It's a choice because I am the scripture. And then Akamian's like, I prefer to be damned.
Yeah, I think there's also, is it Esmenet who says something about like the rules of the world being rewritten with the coming of Kellis? Like, for example, the fact that he taught her, a woman, to read, and he's probably like, there's an implication that he's probably going to introduce more changes into the society.
I
And
think
even
by the end of this book, she's going to be wearing boots. It's my prediction. Woman wearing boots.
can you imagine? Yeah. Another part that I wanted to mention was Nayor thinking, like, sort of contemplating where he is at, and he says something about not being of the people anymore. Like it seems like he is rejecting his Skilvendi identity. And it's it wasn't quite clear to me if that's because he thinks he's something more because of everything that he's experienced, or if it's just that he feels like he's, I don't know, betrayed the ways of his people. Like he's done too many.
Or
Like
he's less compared to his people. Right?
Like he's just betrayed. He's betrayed too many traditions to be able to call himself Skilvendi anymore.
That reminded me of the part where he's like looking at Moingus. He's like, right now, this is an Inrithi and a Sylvendi. He's like Schrodinger's cat. I could take him away, and he's Sylvendi, or I could leave him here, and he's Inrithi. And he's like, no, you're not of the people. And then he goes to smash him and starts getting yelled at.
Yeah. Yeah, Smith catches him and stops him.
And he's saying, you're not of the people, when he finally gets mad. And now he's saying, I'm not of the people.
Yeah, maybe he's realized that being of the people is not necessarily a enjoyable thing or something that you want to aspire to.
From a reader's perspective, we've always known he's not of the people, right? Because he's like one step ahead of them intellectually somehow. And it's real obvious through the books, like him arguing with them over how they should fight, all of his, like you said, times that he like went against the tribe or the way of the people and did what he wanted.
Yeah, and he like him trying to become or be one of the people has just made him incredibly miserable. So why would you want that for your child? It seemed like maybe killing the baby from his perspective might be considered sort of a mercy, maybe, perhaps.
Like that was in the last chapter of the last book when the guy gets captured by all those people and they're like interrogating him, where are the Dunyain? And he's like, man, I should have killed my wife and kids before I left. It would have been better for them. Thinking about how it would be better to strangle your own wife and kids than what ends up happening to them, that's crazy.
It's rough.
There's a couple rough parts in this book, but I also seen the word hope. It came in just be like hope. That's a crazy word. Hope. Why do I have hope?
Yeah. See what's coming up next for us. So I think we'll be reading chapters 5 through 8 next time. So if you're reading along, we'll be back next Friday. It's a great way to finish off talking about Mercy killing a baby. Yeah, that's good.
Well, the baby survived, so and
Yeah.
happy. It was a happy ending.
For now.
Not in that last chapter of the last book. I don't think. I don't
No,
think
that
they
was
survived.
a
But
not so happy ending.
little baby Mo has survived. That's right.
Little
Yes.
baby Mo.
All that's left of Saraway.
Yes. Survey's memory is still alive. Well, and we Survey is sort of making her appearance, even though in the form of a skin spine.
Yeah.
Nair's crazy. I don't think he'll care much.
Yeah, I don't think it'll stop him.
It's, as long as his prize looks like his prize, then he'll keep his prize, maybe.
Yeah.
He's for sure lonely right now. He's for sure broken.
Yeah, but would you want to be his friend?
No.
I don't. If I had to choose to hang out with him or Zenimus, it would be a hard choice. But I think I would hang out with Zenimus still.
He seems safer to be around.
Yeah, he can't see you, so.
You can just run away from him. I mean, he won't be even able to tell.
Yeah, he won't even know it.
I think there's a part where Proteus almost does. The audience ends and he starts walking away and Zen like grabs him, gets led. He's like, "Oh wait, I shouldn't be in this meeting." I was just didn't want to be left alone. He's kind of
Sad.
reverting to a little kid.
Yeah. Kind of what he is now, right? Because
If I lost my eyesight all of a sudden, I don't know. I can't imagine I'd feel good for a long time.
in this world, it's
Yeah, our world's pretty good. His
yeah.
world sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you go out on the street to see your Schreier and get kidnapped by slavers in the
Yeah,
process.
that little kid lost his best friend.
Yeah. Well, cool. So, Katerina, watch out for the slavers this week. If somebody wants to connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
You can find me on the Page Doing forum, and I'm also on Instagram at the Errand.
Yes. And Daniel, where can people not find you?
If you just speak after I'm done talking, I'll hear you and somehow answer back.
Okay. Awesome. So we'll be back next week. It's nice to be back. It was weird having a Friday without these two to talk about books and talk about the series. So it's good to be back and revisiting our old friend Saban.
No comment.
The Icaries, we got to see them all again. None of them
Yes.
are Icaries anymore.
Yes, it was sad to see Sirius go, but at least we got some Confis.
Yeah. Got some quality time with Compass.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of reflecting to do, or denying. It's just probably more likely.
And it seemed like Ikari didn't want Confis to come back. Ikari has another plan for Confis in this war, but he didn't really exactly say what it was.
They seem very persistent, persevering. Like they have a plan and they will do anything to get it done.
We'll see.
But we'll see. Yeah, we'll have to read on and find out.
Nice. Well, cool, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next Friday. Till then, we'll talk to everyone soon.